All right, so you've just watched the previous video on the vision and how to create a vision for yourself. Now we're going to talk about inventory. That's the second letter in our 5-word V.I.S.T.A program, right? So inventory is you now have a vision and you want to implement it. Inventory is doing that. So look at this. Inventory is your war chest. And your war chest is divided into two groups. You have what is inside you and what is outside you, but this is all my inside, my outside. Then you have the second part, the inner circle and the outer circle. So this is interesting. When you have the inner circle and the outer circle, these are things that are around you. They are the context and content of your livelihood, but they're not necessarily things you can control. So let's come to the war chest, my inside. Your inside is divided into talent, personality, and experience. This is the stuff that's on the inside of you. Now, talent is inbuilt, but you have to grow it, right? Talent comes innately, but it becomes a skill as you keep practicing. So identifying what your talent is, huge. I cannot overemphasize how important it is for you to know what your talent is. Look, if you are good at something to start with, it's easy for you to get to the end of that thing. Public speaking, for example. If you're good at public speaking, then you know the theory of things you can do. You can stand in front of a group of people and you can do anything you want in front of that group. You can be a singer, you can be an artist or painter, you can be a TV host, you can be a politician, you can be a priest, a pastor. You can do it in front of people because you've got public speaking skill. That's what the talent is. Your talent is your fundamental rock of strength. You need to know what the talent is. That's the T. The second one is the P, personality. You can be talented at singing, but because you're shy, it adds no value to you. That's what you need to be able to know. If my talent is in one thing, what is my personality in this thing going to be like? What does it need to be? A talented musician that is shy, Michael Jackson, for example, you could normally have a future that doesn't stand up really well when compared to a musician, very talented musician, who isn't. Michael Jackson on his maiden journeys when he was a child with Jackson 5. Hey, he used to be the guy at the back, but he had the best voice. And the whole family lifted him up to be a pretty good singer, right? That's kind of what you're trying to get to. That's where you're trying to go. If you know that you have a talent, but your personality doesn't allow you to grow it, then you need to surround yourself with people who will allow you to do it, right? That's personality. Here's the third one, and the third one is pretty important as well. Experience. What is your experience? So you know that you're talented, you know that you've got a personality, but what do you know? What have you done before? Where have you gone? Whom have you spoken to? How many people have you sung in front of? It is when you understand these three things that you understand what kind of power you have on the inside. Yeah? This is when you know how strong you are to be able to handle things. This is why you find people who are talented but have the wrong personality and some experience don't go too far. But at the same time, people who have personality and experience can build a skill that people think becomes a talent. What you have done and who you are say more about you than how talented you are. You can build almost any skill in the world, so you don't have to have immense talent to be a success. But if you do not have experience, that becomes tricky. You need people to hold your hand. If you do not have the right personality, you can be in real trouble if you don't know how to build that up. Your inside. Let's talk about my outside. Now, my outside is the stuff that builds around talent, personality, and experience. There are three things that matter when you're talking about my outside. And I'm going to write them down for you in a second. These three things are very straightforward. Number one, let's put a nice little big box. The first thing, when you're talking about my outside, is what am I willing to do to improve my talent, personality, and experience? That's important. What do I need to do? W is for what. Where can I get it? Where can I get talent, personality, and experience? Where do I need to go to be able to get it to happen? And the third one is, how do I need to do it? Or how much, or how long? Listen to me. If you're a talented musician, it only makes sense for you to learn how to play instruments. If you're a talented artist, it only makes sense for you to have paintbrushes and colors and pastels and canvases and do an exhibit of some sort, whether it's to your family or your close friends. You have to start somewhere. If you remember in our conversation in the vision, you have to have proof. You have to have something you can look at and say, you know what, I could do this. I did it before. And finally, for experience, you have to get out there and try. You do. You just have to get out there and try. Fail a couple of times. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't try, As long as you don't try, you'll always fail 100% of the time because you haven't tried. What? Where? How?